Now I've been hearing like a lot of sites and stuff call Anderson Silva's performance over Demian Maia at UFC 112 a disgrace to mixed martial arts. Some people calling this performance some of the most embarrassing things in MMA history. But I'm here to give you something a little bit different. You know, something different. I look at it this way: Anderson Silva going into that fight was a defending champion of mixed martial arts on 185-pound division in the UFC. His job is not to put on a show. His job is not to go in there and destroy his challenger. His job is not to go in there and impress the fans. His job is very simple. It's to defend his title and win. And he did just that. A lot of people argue that the first 2 rounds were somewhat exciting, and the rest of the fight was a complete bore. My job, not my job, but my thoughts on this is that Silva really should have done nothing but what he did. His job is not to go in there and take these risks like he did in his first couple of fights. People talk about how he destroyed Rich Franklin. People talk about how he destroyed Chris Lieben. Well, he wasn't the champion at that time. You know, he had to go for broke to get his name out there to get that title shot. Once you win the belt, you can do whatever you want then. You know, like, are you going to, you know, criticize LeBron James for going out there and only taking shots from inside the arc, shots that he know will go in? Are you going to criticize Shaquille O'Neal for not playing the entire game and coming in the last quarter when he's fresh and doing something then? No, you know, you can't say anything about that because people look at those sports differently. And I think mixed martial arts isn't like professional wrestling. It's not WWE. It's about winning, you know. I don't see anybody criticizing George St. Pierre for his win over Dan Hardy. You know, I don't see anybody saying that was embarrassing for St. Pierre to lay on Hardy for 5 rounds and not engage him standing. And you notice Anderson Silva did basically the opposite of what GSP did. He chose to keep the fight standing and not go to the ground. And like another interesting fact is if you take all the punches Anderson landed in this fight, he threw more punches in this fight than he did in any of his other past fights to date. That means that if you took a highlight reel of every fight he's had so far in the UFC and compared it to a highlight reel of the high hits he had in this fight would be longer and have more punches. You know, people seem to forget that. You know, like Joe Rogan called it something like a showcase of mixed martial arts, and that's exactly what it was. A lot of people, I guess, want Silva to do what he was doing before, as in clinching people and destroying like he did Rich Franklin the first and second time. I guess people want to go in like he did Chris Lieben and knocking people out in the first round. Silva is a very dangerous counter striker, you know, and if you don't know what counter striker means, it means he has to be attacked first. You know, he counters your attack. If he's not going to be put in there with dangerous strikers that are willing to do that, you're not going to see it. You're going to see what happened at when he fought Talis Latis. You're going to see what happens when he fought Demian Maia, where he's not going to engage, he's going to wait for him to do something, and he's going to be frustrated when they don't engage him. And I think it's only fair, you know, like, is it fair for us to tell Silva to get to the ground with Latis or Maia and play their game? No, you know, the fight starts standing, and unless you get the fight to the ground, that's how it should be. I've noticed a lot of people aren't criticizing Talis Latis very much. A lot of people aren't criticizing Demian Maia very much for his performance, and I think Maia should be criticized a lot. He had the ability to take Silva to the mat, so he should be punished for it. You know, it's not like Silva. You know, it takes 2 people to have a bad fight. It takes 2 individuals to make something go wrong, and it's not like Silva went in there and completely act like an idiot the whole 5 rounds. You know, Silva wanted to fight. He hit him with a flying knee. He dropped him. He wanted to finish it, but Maia just chose to want to kind of wade back and hide a little bit and not really go in and try to knock Silva out or really try to make effort to the ground. And that's because his lack of skill set, which I think even then goes around to Lorenzo Fertitta, Joe Rogan, and guys like Dana White, because these are the people, like, you know, Joe Rogan's going to spit in your ear all the time, reiterate that Silva's a different kind of striker, that Anderson Silva is a different kind of fighter, but not be on his side when he has these kind of performances. You know, Joe was the first one to criticize, you know, and say, I don't know what Silva's doing, he's in a whole other world. Guys like Lorenzo Fertitta, Dana White, Joe Silva, that make these kind of fights happen, knowing that's what they're going to get, and then complain about it later. You know, I don't understand how Silva can be hyped as the best fighter in the world after he destroys Forrest Griffin, but goes to a 5-round decision against Demian Maia, and all of a sudden he's disrespected mixed martial arts, and all of a sudden he is the worst fighter for the sport. He's a horrible ambassador. And I think overall that's probably the worst way to look at it whatsoever. You know, like, what is that telling the fans? You know, that's telling us that Silva doesn't finish anybody, then all of a sudden Silva's disrespectful and we should boo him. And I think it's not like that whatsoever. But as far as the main event goes, I think I enjoyed it. I found it to be very exciting. If you didn't like it, that means you obviously can appreciate technique and precision in the fight. And As far as Anderson Silva goes, I'd like to see him fight at 205 next. I'm not interested in seeing him fight George St. Pierre or anybody at 185. Maybe Vitor Belfort, maybe. But other than the Vitor Belfort fight, I don't want to see him fight anybody at 185. There's nobody left for him there. Bisping, Akiyama. That's about the only challengers at the division. I don't want to see fight either one of those guys. Fight him Wanderlei Silva doesn't need to happen. I think 205 is great. You know, we can see him versus John Jones eventually, him versus Ryan Bader eventually. A lot of interesting fights, 205, Rampage Jackson, potential rematch with Forrest Griffin somewhere down the line. The fight everybody wants to see, him versus Shogun, who, of course, you know. And hell, if Machida loses the belt next month, that fight could happen next. You know, I'd be very interested in seeing him fight Shogun Hua. As far as BJ Penn versus Frankie Edgar, when I first watched the fight, I thought BJ Penn was robbed. When I look at it now, it's not quite so much of a robbery. But I like to see an immediate rematch. I think they're actually trying to put that together now. And that's my video.